There's nothing human there, only money. How Fedor Emelianenko turned down UFC bosses. Dana White is sure that the last emperor still regrets his decision. To refuse the UFC, especially when you are offered a record contract, is a small sporting feat. Francis Ngannou, the UFC heavyweight champion, made just such a brave decision. After long and fruitless negotiations, the giant left the promotion and went free-floating. But he could have been the highest-paid heavyweight in the history of the organization. At least, that's what Dana White says. Ngannou himself is still silent, like a partisan under interrogation. By the way, at that press conference White mentioned also Fedor Emelianenko, who before Ngannou was the only fighter who was able to refuse the UFC president. Let's remember that story for us, too. Especially since both Fedor and Dana regularly mentioned their failed cooperation. The Russian and the American were very unhappy with each other at the time. They had a significant antagonism between them which has only increased over the years. But what happened in reality? White invited Emelianenko to UFC for the first time in 2009. For several years in a row, Dana was quite scornful about the greatness of the last emperor, but as soon as the Russian left the Affliction promotion, he immediately got in touch with him. The two men met on the island of Curacao and had talks for several days, but came to nothing. Soon Emelianenko announced that he would fight in the Strikeforce promotion and forget about the UFC. I offered a contract to Emelianenko. Fedor probably still lies in bed every night thinking about it. We made him an offer. We tried to do him a favor, but for some reason Fedor doesn't like me. We don't know him personally, we've only seen each other once in our lives. He says that I only think about money. He should have thought more about money when we proposed to him. Then he wouldn't have had to perform until he was 45, White told reporters. Soon Emelianenko's legendary winning streak came to an end. Strikeforce also began to have financial problems. In 2011, the promotion was completely taken over by the growing UFC, and a vengeful White did not deny himself the pleasure of terminating the agreement with Fedor, which came to him after the purchase of Strikeforce. The contract with Fedor is terminated. He just thought for a very long time that Emelianenko was the best in the world. I always thought he was overrated. After a streak of failures, the last emperor gradually came back to good form, and Dana became interested in the Russian again. But then, suddenly, Fedor's father passed away, after which the athlete decided to suspend his career. Emelianenko returned to the sport 3 years later. UFC representatives were there and made another generous offer to our compatriot. Alas, the agreement failed again. The last emperor chose another option, despite all White's entreaties. The people who said, "We have the best promotion, there's no better in the world," and so on. It was all about their promotion. They said, "We think you're the best fighter, we'd like you to fight for us. We want to pay you so much, fight Brock Lesnar." I said, "That's good money, I know how much you pay." But I said I wanted a little more. And said I have a team, multiple World Combat Sambo champions and so on. And I would like them to come into the UFC too. And they told me, "We'll think about the fee for you. And we don't need you guys." They said it outright. And at that time came Bellator, Scott. Here above all there was a human attitude that money can't buy. No matter what they say, it still happens. The UFC is one thing, and other organizations are another. What was your impression of Dana White? Unpleasant. His money is everything. He has no respect for fighters, no respect for the man. Only money, that's all. There's nothing human there. And that repulses me. Money, of course, was important to earn money and for family. But to exchange human relations for money, that's not it, Emelianenko explained to TASS.